part one of 1903, the Reformation of Christianity. I'm going to make two videos out of this because the first time I tried to make the video, it was over 20 minutes, and I can only put a video of 15 minutes on the on YouTube. So this will be in a two-part series. Okay, so I want you to do both series today for class. This goes along with a blue student notes sheet that I want you filling out as you go through this. That blue sheet will have these vocabulary terms on them at the beginning. At some point, I want you filling out those vocabulary terms for tomorrow's class period. Some of these will come up, if not all of them. I don't think all of them will come up in my presentation here in this video, but you will find them in the textbook reading, so make sure you have those filled out. Otherwise, the rest of this presentation will be filling in those boxes on the bottom of the front page of the blue sheet and on the back side. All right, so we'll go through about half of this right now, and then we'll do the other half on a second video that'll follow along this. All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to start talking about, of course, the Reformation. But to do that, we do kind of have to go back. What's going to cause this Reformation? One of the biggest things that's going to cause the Reformation is the corruption of the Catholic Church. Now, this corruption is not something that just happened immediately in the early 1500s. This corruption is something that was brewing for hundreds of years. Okay, Christianity, of course, will start with Jesus being born and then his teachings and the New Testament and all that type of stuff with his crucifixion and his resurrection. But over those roughly 1,500 years, the church in the beginning was fairly weak. It was fairly isolated. It was persecuted. The members, it was very scary to be a member of the Christian church. But then eventually, within the Roman Empire itself, by the 300s, it had become the official religion of Rome. And then the Middle Ages occur. And during those Middle Ages, the church is kind of like the last symbol of Rome that it kind of gains a lot of power and influence in Europe because people are kind of looking at some stability, if you can remember back when we talked about the fall of Rome. So that in the Middle Ages, what ends up happening is this Catholic Church takes on a lot of power and influence. A lot of it has to deal with the fact that really the only people that are educated in, great deal throughout the Middle Ages are the leadership of the church, the clergy, the monks, the priests, things like that. And it allows them to have a lot of influence and power. With education comes power, okay? Now, with power comes also the possibility of being corrupt. And that's what ends up happening to many of the leaders within the Catholic Church. There's corruption through the Black Death, or there's corruption especially through the Crusades. But then there becomes corruption through, electing kings, selecting kings, all that type of stuff throughout Europe during these Middle Ages. To eventually, here we get to the Renaissance time period. And what ends up happening is now you have some people questioning what's going on within, the society. And part of it was with the church. And one of the things that's being questioned, not only by the people on the outside of the church, but actually people within the church, is this practice of indulgences. Indulgences, right here, is just a document. It's a piece of paper given by the Pope that excuses a person from penalties for the sins he or she committed. What's happening is church leaders, maybe they become the new bishop of somewhere, Bishop of Canterbury, or they become a new priest of a town, or a new abbot of a monastery of monks. What they usually want to do when they get there is build a new cathedral, a new church, or add on to it some kind of a shrine to their time period as a leader. That takes a lot of money, though, to build these things. And they have to get this money somehow. And one way they do it is by selling indulgences. It's a scam. It is a scam. They know it's a scam, but they're playing on the ignorance of most of the people during that time period. So what they would do is they would say to these people, hey, here's what you can do. If you've sinned, you can come to me, the church leader, could be the Pope even, and tell me what your sin is. I will give you a piece of paper. You give me money. Depended on the sin, certain sins might be $100, maybe another sin was $1,000, and you have your forgiveness. Now that you have this indulgence, this piece of paper, you will not have to serve time in what's called purgatory. Catholics believe purgatory is a place where the souls go before they go to heaven, kind of a holding place. if you will. When you die, your soul goes to purgatory. You're there for a little while, depending on how sinful you were on earth and things like that. Then you can go to heaven. Um, there are many, though, like Martin Luther, who we'll talk about a bit, who thought this practice of letting people there buy their way into heaven was corrupt, because this is not how the Bible teaches. This was not Jesus' teachings. Martin Luther, Erasmus, remember Erasmus? They're looking at this going, you're just playing on the ignorance of these people. You know it's a scam, it's wrong. And pretty soon, these people start talking about these things. They start expressing these concerns in the church and then eventually out to the community also. Another thing that's going to cause the Reformation is the Renaissance and this idea of skepticism, just questioning things. Hey, is this right? Is there some better way to do this? Does this really say this in the Bible? That type of stuff. And the Renaissance is going to lead to many people questioning the Catholic Church and their practices. Yes, the indulgences, but other things also, like why is it that the Catholic Church is the wealthiest institution? Why are priests and archbishops and the Pope so rich? I thought they were to take vows of poverty, all that type of stuff. Humanists and other political leaders start to question the authority. Why is the church involved in government? Shouldn't they just be focused on religion? Why are they making laws? Those types of things. And they also start to take a turn and just look at science. Let's start using science to explain what's going on in the world. Focus on reasoning and rationality, not just religion, to explain these things. Another concern at this time was the Pope. Many people just see the Pope as some kind of a foreigner. You know, he's down there in Italy and Rome. A lot of people don't think he is their authority. I'm up here in England or France or Spain or Germany or Denmark. Why am I listening to somebody that's down in Italy, Rome, knows nothing about me, knows nothing about my life, doesn't even speak my language? Why would I pay attention to him at all? And then, of course, the last thing is the printing press, which we'll talk about next. Okay, the printing press, of course, developed by Gutenberg. Well, the printing press allows for all these books and other writings to be quickly distributed to the masses. Instead of just the wealthy few being allowed to read or just the clergy being able to read, now anybody, even down to the lowliest serf, could learn to read because things are going to be printed in the common language. Remember how the Catholic Church leaders were so against the Bible being printed in the common language? It was because they knew the people of Europe were going to find out this indulgences and a lot of the other things we're doing, they're just a scam. And they were trying to hold on to their power. Right? They knew they would lose their power if this printing press was allowed to print things into the common language. And people would be able to read the Bible themselves now. They wouldn't need the clergy. You wouldn't need so many priests and monks and bishops and things like that to tell people how to worship anymore. They could do it themselves. So those are kind of some of the causes that are going to lead to the Reformation. Some of the main people involved in the Reformation, of course, number one is Martin Luther. Martin Luther, he had interacted, of course, with Erasmus. Martin Luther was the most influential person that we know of for the Reformation. By trade, by education, he was a lawyer. He wanted to be a lawyer. What ends up happening is he's out on the road doing some lawyerly things, and he's struck by lightning. He almost dies, but before he thinks he's dying, he kind of makes a promise to God. Hey, God, let me live, and I will turn my life over to you. Well, he lives, and he turns his life over to God and becomes a monk. And it's a life-changing event for him. But as he's becoming a monk, of course, what's he doing? He's reading the Bible. And he's learning Jesus' teachings and things like that. But he's also reading about what he's supposed to be believing as a monk and all that. But then he's also seeing what's happening in the church, these indulgences and other things. He's like, wait a second, these two are not matching. Something's wrong here. And he believes that the church needs to change its ways. Now, Martin Luther does not want to break away from the Catholic Church. He wants the church just to go back to its original life of religion. He doesn't even want it being a part of the government and things like that. But he wants the corrupt activities to end. And he believes that he's one of those, he's kind of talking about, too, that you really don't need church leaders to be faithful. And then by 1517, though, so many people have, kind of blew him off and just said, well, Martin Luther, this is just the way it is. Quit talking about these things. You're going to get in trouble, all that type of stuff. To where eventually what he's going to do is he's going to commit an act that leads to the Reformation. And this act is when he nails the 95 Theses to the door of a church in Wittenberg. It looks like Wittenberg. It's Wittenberg, Germany. By this time here in 1517, Martin Luther has kind of been banished, not excommunicated yet, banished by the Pope and other church leaders to this small little place in Germany. He continues to keep saying his things. Nobody will listen to him and things like that. So eventually he just writes out his 95 problems he has, and he nails it to the door of this church. Whoops. This is the act that starts the Reformation, because nailing it to the door is basically like throwing it out there on Twitter or on social media today. Everybody's going to see it, because the church door, that's kind of the community door. That's where everybody goes for the daily news. Like anything that you need to know that's going on in the community, you come to the church door. They're going to see this, they're going to read it, and then they're going to start questioning even more. And this upsets the church leaders. All right, so I'm going to stop right there for this first one. I'll go to, we'll continue this on the second version so that I don't go over time and things like that here. All right.